Morning, 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 and morning. Hope things are good with you. Welcome to I Can Change the Title Later Right, a show where I try and give you quick and actionable marketing advice that will help make you money and help make your life a little bit easier. Actually, that was quite good. That's the first time I've tried that. That sounded quite natural. If you exclude the bit where I actually congratulated myself on remembering it, that sounded quite good. I wish I'd written that down. Oh, never mind. So, quick, actionable marketing advice. It's also just occurred to me that I'm watching a lot of videos online for research for a client at the moment. And a lot of the videos I'm watching are by influencers, which is a term I hate. But, thought leaders, influencers. And whenever they do these kind of videos that are face to camera, if they're not out in some kind of cosmopolitan area or a penthouse or anything like that, they've got these weird and wonderful backgrounds with like books and stuff like that. And I realised that my background is a little bit lacking at the moment. So if you're watching the video of this, I thought I thought I'll get a book. It's not just to kind of impress you that I am a man who reads books. I might not actually do that, but I want to kind of give you the impression that I'm able to read. So I grabbed the first one, which is probably not the best example. I've got the Best of Nicklaus's Golf, Jack Nicklaus golf book, which if you're a golfer, it's really good. So I'm going to pop that over there just to give the video people a suitable background that will give me a bit more gravitas. Because the tip I'm going to give you today isn't about picking a book to appear good in the background. It's about it's something I found in a book. I was going to say I read this in a book, but I listened to it in a book. Does that count? Because it always feels to me like I'm cheating when I'm listening to an audiobook. It's a book called Mastery by Robert Greene. And if you know Robert Greene, he writes these massive, massive books that are thick. They're door stoppers. I tell you, they'd probably use them as a chuck for a tugboat. They could hold things in place, these books. So this is quite fitting because the past couple of episodes I've been talking about the idea of content, about not how it magically appears from places, but how it does appear from the most random places, and you've kind of got to be open to this. So this is a great example. So I've been listening to this audiobook by Robert Greene called Mastery, and he has a story about Ben Franklin. And as soon as I heard the story, I thought, that's actually really good. Not only is the story in itself really good, but it's actually got an implication for marketing your business, and it's a really solid lesson. So I should point out that anything I say in this will probably be historically inaccurate. I'm terrible at remembering facts, but the gist I'm okay with. But when it comes to the facts and names and places and dates, I might be a little bit off. So take that with a grain of salt, but the lesson is gold. So, Ben Franklin. There's a lesson in Robert Greene's book where he talks about Ben Franklin, how as a kid and a young man, he was really sociable, had charm, wit, personality, and he used that to kind of score him a lot of points with people and break into societies and things. Not break in like burglary, but, edge into society and get known. So he used his charm, wit, and natural charisma to be able to do stuff like that. But there came a time when he realised that wasn't enough, that there was more to this kind of social connection to be able to get things out of relationships and form really strong connections with people. You needed to do more than this surface level stuff. And that came to a head when he was writing these letters that were appearing in his brother's newspaper as Silence Dogood. And he revealed to his brother that it was him writing them. Now, I think he expected that his brother would be overjoyed by this, but he wasn't that socially aware enough because his brother actually hated him for it. And things got edgy, probably fighting, maybe a Chinese burn here or there. But it ended up with Ben Franklin escaping and fleeing away from his brother and moving away to a different country. So even though Franklin was this charming, charismatic, personable chap, he still didn't have that deeper level of knowledge about social norms and how to get on with people to be able to gauge that his brother would hate this. His own brother. He wasn't able to figure out that his brother would hate this. And so that taught Franklin the lesson. And the lesson was that you need to develop this skill of empathy. And I know empathy is this kind of, people throw it around like authentic and stuff like that. But empathy is a really powerful skill. And Franklin realised that it wasn't enough for him to work on himself to be this charming, charismatic guy. What he also had to do was get in the head of the person he was talking to or be able to get into the head, like he did when he was writing the letters as Silence Dogood. You know, he created a history for that character. He didn't just write it and sign it Silence. He actually developed a character with a backstory. He really, like, method acted his way into this just to write letters. That's the kind of character he stepped into. And he realised he could use this skill when, you know, negotiating with people or trying to get something from them. He had to do that same thing. He had to embody them as much as he did Silence Dogood. So it all came to a head, and here's the lesson. So Franklin was working for a guy whose name I'm probably going to butcher, called Martin Keimer, in a printing shop. And he didn't get on with him at all. But after a few months, Keimer did start being more friendly to Franklin. And ordinarily that would be a good sign. But Franklin, with this idea that he wanted to get into the head of people, he started asking himself, well, why would this guy who hates me suddenly start being nice to me and doing kind things for me? And the more he looked at this and he went into this kind of empathy, he figured when he got into Keimer's head, he realised that he was only doing this because he was setting himself up for a fall. That is the only possibility that was going on. And it was only when he was able to step inside this guy's head that he realised that all this great stuff that's going on, all these opportunities and all this niceness, was just a front. He was just setting him up for a big fall that was going to pay off in weeks and months. So it's only by being able to leap inside his head that he was able to do this. So Franklin didn't do anything about this. He didn't try and persuade him or win him over or say, I know what your game is, stop it, that kind of thing. I know what your game is, stop it. I sound like a pensioner you playing knock a door run to. I know what your game is, knock it on the head. So Franklin didn't try and persuade him. He didn't try and use charm, wit, charisma, anything like that. So what he actually did was he knew it was coming, so he used that information for his own advantage. So in the print shop he was working with, he started to focus on building relationships with the customers and getting to know them so that they were used to dealing with him, so that he became the one they were used to dealing with. Not only that, he started training people in the office to be his assistant, so that when the time came in 2 or 3 months or whenever it was, just as Keimer was about to kick him out and say, this is the big payoff, Franklin was able to go, beat him to it and go, no, it's all right, I'm off. See ya. And he was able to spot it, realise it was happening and use it to his advantage. So of course when he did leave, because he'd spent the last couple of weeks and months, you know, bonding with customers, he took all his customers with him. So when he started his own print shop, they came with him. Not only that, because he'd been training all the people in the lab and in the print shop to be assistants, he had his pick of the assistants to go with him because they'd forged strong connections with him. So he was able to take the assistant and the customers, start his own print shop, all because he took that extra bit of time to get into Keimer's head and think, why is he being so nice to me? Because if he hadn't have done, he would have been out on his ear and had nothing. But because he went that extra step and he embodied the person and did the research like he did with Silence Dogood, he was able to preempt the attack and use it. So, and that's something that copywriters always do. When we're writing whatever it is, sales page, email, blog post, we always try and get in the head of our customers and figure, right, what is it going on for them? What's going on in their world that we can tap into here? I know what's going on in my world, but I have no idea what's going on in there. So you become that kind of customer. But there's a bigger lesson here. If you think it's just about empathy, you're missing the bigger point. And the bigger point is this. It's what Franklin didn't do with Keimer. And if you think about it, what most people would do when they realise that somebody's setting themselves up for a fall is they do their best to try and persuade them, try and win them over and stop it from happening. But Franklin didn't do that. He saw what was happening and he just went with it. He didn't try and change it, he didn't try and persuade him, and all he did is he saw what was going to happen and used that as a tool, as a reference point, and thought, right, what do I do now? He took him out of the equation once he realised what was going on and used it. And this is a really good example of how copy isn't about persuading people. It's not about persuading the customer to go from A to B. It's about stepping into the customer's mind, stepping into their life, realising what their pain points are, what their aspirations are, and then using that to influence how you talk about your thing. You don't guide them to your thing. You suit your product, your service, your membership or whatever, you suit it to what's going on in their head. You don't try and persuade them that they shouldn't feel like this or that, and that they should feel like this and they should buy this. You make whatever it is you want them to buy or buy into be the natural, logical fit for whatever's going on in their head. So think about that. When you dive into your customer's mind, you think about what's going on in their world, and you think about what they want, what they need. Make your thing suit that, rather than trying to persuade the customer to go from where they are to click your magic green buy button. And there's a big difference in that. It's not about persuading somebody they should be feeling like this. All copy is just like dealing with objections, and I've talked about this before. And so that's what you need to do. You need to take what your customer's giving you, what's going on in their mind, and then use that, use that to influence how you talk about your thing. Don't try and persuade, just make your product the most natural thing for them to want. And that's what Ben Franklin did. And it's a great lesson, that. And it's, when you do stuff like that, sales become easy because the customers can see exactly what it is and exactly how it fits their life. So if that's one tip you take away from copywriting, is this kind of, if you bin the urge to kind of persuade people to click your button and tell them why they should do this and why they should do that, let them figure it out for themselves. If you've done your research and you know where they are, you know what's going on in their head, just align your product with that, and it'll just kind of tessellate over. There's a big word, tessellate. It'll just kind of tessellate over, and it will seem like the perfect fit for them without you having to sell it. They can make up their own mind. So, hope you found that useful. Hope you appreciated the book in the background. Maybe I'll do another one next time. If you haven't been to my website at insertgaghere.com and got your boatload of freebies, do that. There's a big button that says subscribe for lots of free stuff. There's email prompts, client getting guides. There's also trainings on how to make your writing life easier and funny up your words and stuff like that. It's all for free. It's an absolute bargain. So go to Insert Gag Here and grab those. And I'm off to read another book and see if I can get some content out of that. Have a good one.